Hello everybody, welcome to Wallboy Movies, the place to talk movies, and with last week being the release of Scream 7 and me watching all of the movies to prepare for that 7th movie, I figured I'd go ahead and rank all 7 Scream movies from worst to best. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in this video, is I'm going to be ranking every single Scream movie that we gotten from the first movie back in 1996 all the way down to the most recent movie that we got in 2026. But be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your ranking of the Scream movies. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Kicking off the list at last place, I have Scream 3. Now this has always been the one Scream movie that I haven't gone around to watch, but preparing myself for Scream 7, I watched all of these movies and I watched this movie for the first time, and this just so happens to be my least favorite entry of the entire franchise. Not saying that it's bad or anything, but in terms of ranking all the movies, this ends up at the number 7 spot. Like, I do like the Hollywood setting of this movie taking place in Hollywood, and I did like the dynamic and relationship between Gale and Dewey in this movie, how they were kind of separated from the last time we saw them in the Scream timeline. But this just so happened to be the least bloodiest movie of the series, understandably so because of the circumstances at the time. Also, I was back and forth on the motive that Roman had in this movie of why he became Ghostface, but there are just some good things in this movie, like that one scene with the different Ghostface costumes, and seeing Randy back again, even though he died in the last movie, just made this to be like a good and enjoyable movie. Next up, I have Scream 7.
Don't even think about it.
Now, I totally understand why some people would have this movie dead last in their ranking of the Scream movies, but when it comes to me personally, I think this is just a step up from Scream 3, and I think both of these movies are on like the same level of just being good. Like, there are just so many good things that I just liked in Scream 7, like the character of Tatum in this movie. I thought Isabel May did a great job with that character, and Joel McHale as Mark Evans definitely surprised me. I also really enjoyed the mom and daughter relationship that Sydney and Tatum had in this movie, and I was happy at least to see Matthew Lillard return as Stu Macher, even though I think they definitely botched the return of Stu. But what is ultimately the biggest deal breaker of this movie is the ending and Ghostface reveal and motive. Like, I think the motive in this movie on why this Ghostface is going around killing people has to be the worst motive and reveal of the entire Scream franchise. Like, it definitely would have knocked this movie down from being like an 8 out of 10 movie to a 7.5 out of 10, which I gave in my review for the movie, but I still ended up enjoying Scream 7 nonetheless. Taking the 5th place spot, I have Scream 2. Now, from here on out, the movies that I have on my ranking, I think are at least great entries of the Scream franchise, and I think Scream 2 is a pretty good entry of the series and a worthy sequel of that first movie. Like, yeah, I was bummed that they went ahead and killed off the character of Randy in this movie, but there are just so many good things about this movie. Like, that movie theater opening, I really enjoyed, and the character of Cotton Weary in this movie, played by Liev Schreiber, was also a pretty good addition in the movie, and I think Mickey was a pretty good Ghostface killer in the movie, and his motive was very interesting. And I thought this movie had some pretty good red herring moments in this movie where it makes you think that this person could end up being the Ghostface killer in the movie. And I definitely thought they played that up very well. But one other thing that I just wasn't that big of a fan of in Scream 2 was like Nancy Loomis. Just the logistics of that, of her going through plastic surgery just to go after Sidney Prescott. That's just something that I'm just very iffy on, but still, I ended up really enjoying Scream 2 and thought this was a pretty good follow-up to the first. In 4th place, I have Scream 4. Now, I see a lot of people say that Scream 4 is an underrated movie, and I definitely have to agree with those people, because I think Scream 4 is a really good and very solid sequel of this franchise. Like, I really like a lot of the things that they do in the Scream 4 movie. Like, it was definitely ahead of its time with, like, the live streaming part, but Jill in here as one of the Ghostface killers in here, she is definitely a top tier Ghostface killer in the movie. And I love how we saw that she kind of got away with it for a little bit in the movie. And plus, the added commentary of horror movie reboots I also thought worked very well in the movie, and it had some pretty gruesome kills in there. The only thing I really didn't like about Scream 4 was the cinematography, like the Vaseline lens. Wasn't a big fan of that, but still, think this is a really great entry at the franchise, and again, underrated. Kicking off the top 3 of this list, I have Scream 6. Now, I'm gonna be straight up and honest with you guys, this might be a huge biasy to me, because if you've seen my Scream 6 review, you know that I said that this was the first R-rated movie that I saw in theaters, and I met one of the actors of that movie, Leonardo Liberato, in real life. So, biasy may be a thing with this movie, but I still think that this is a very great follow-up to the 5th Scream movie, the relaunch that we got in 2022. Like, I really dug the dynamic of the core 4, and I especially really like the relationship that Sam and Tara had in this movie, and it sucks that this is essentially the last time that we saw the characters of Sam and Tara, and this movie definitely solidified the core 4 as characters that I would have loved to follow for at least one more entry of the series to round off that trilogy, and I really like how this movie went ahead and did the most in terms of differentiating from the typical Scream formula. Like, this was a very different Scream movie that we got in terms of the formula, except for that reveal, but I still think that this is a very great follow-up. The runner-up on this list, I have Scream 5. Now, for a while, this was my favorite entry of the entire Scream franchise, but after a year after I saw Scream 5, that opinion definitely changed, and this movie dropped to the number 2 spot, but still, I really like this movie, and it's definitely one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Like, I thought Radio Silence did a great job in terms of directing of this movie and taking over from Wes Craven after his passing. And I also really like how this was essentially the first Scream movie where I wasn't spoiled on who the killers were going into the movie. I will also admit that this movie was responsible for me wanting to watch the Mikey Madison movie Anora, because she was one of the ghost faces in this movie, and both ghost faces in here, Richie and Amber, were great ghost faces in this movie, and this movie definitely aged very well with the toxic fandom motive, especially after the release of 7. I found this 5th entry of the series to be the best sequel of the entire series, and like I said, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. But to absolutely no one's surprise, the number 1 spot goes to Scream 1. I mean, this movie was a very big and influential horror movie to the genre. Like, the meta commentary on horror movies was something that I really loved about this movie, because I'm obviously someone who really likes watching movies. That opening scene with Drew Barrymore is just so iconic, and yeah, this is just a horror movie that works so well with Wes Craven's directing and Kevin Williamson's script. This movie just ended up being a really great horror movie, and one that I really enjoy watching, and this movie, Scream, is my all-time favorite horror movie. Out of all the ones I've seen, this one ranks number 1 in that horror movie ranking list. But that was my ranking of all 7 Scream movies. I'm very curious to hear from you guys on where you rank all of these Scream movies, which ones you think are the best and which ones you think are the worst. Go ahead and leave me your rankings of this franchise down in the comment section, and while you're at it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video, and have a great day.